US President-elect Joe Biden has vowed to return the US to the Paris Accord. The Paris deal was drafted in 2015 to strengthen the global response to the climate change threat. In 2017, US President Donald Trump announced the withdrawal from the agreement. Madoda Koti is an environmental and mining lawyer. He says countries like South Africa have a lot to benefit if the US returns to the Paris Accord, and you have joined us this morning to talk a little bit more about that. Madoda, thank you very much for coming in. Tell us why you think we are likely to benefit.
Good morning. Thanks, Jane, for inviting me, and thanks for having me here. Before I can just explain the benefits, you need to understand whether South Africa fit into the climate change legal framework and whether the USA fit in the legal framework. Under the United Nations Conference on Climate Change, South Africa is a non-annexer country, which is a developing country, and it has to derive certain benefits from the developed country like your USA. So one of the benefits is that Article 2 imposes an obligation on any country to hold the emission levels to less than 2 degrees Celsius. But at the same time, there's an obligation on the developed countries to finance adaptation and mitigation actions on developing countries. So South Africa, by virtue of being a developing country, benefits from the US. And the US so far has pledged a lot of money in the climate change fund. And that's one of the funds that President Obama established before he left the office.
Okay, so give us a sense of how much money we could get, where it would be directed.
Well, the money will be directed on mitigation and adaptation plans for South Africa in order for South Africa to meet its national determined contributions to the climate change fight. And the last time, U.S. pledged about $3 billion just before Obama vacated the office. And so far, $1 billion has been pledged by the USA. But since Trump took over the president, he has chose to stop the funding to the Green Energy Climate Fund.
Yeah, I mean, it's been frightening what Donald Trump's views of the climate change are. I mean, he doesn't believe that it's happening, much to the detriment of the entire planet. If we are to get this right, though, if we are to benefit from the US now rejoining the Paris Accord, how do we balance our obsession still with coal and looking backwards, and the fact that we still put so much energy and finance into that? Is that going to be a problem for us?
Well, if we are going to benefit by the US joining, remember, South Africa had a stance before going to the Paris Agreement, and it wanted to hold the developed countries to more mitigation and robust plans in terms of developing countries. And one of those is financing the developing countries. And secondly, we also have to benefit from the capacity building. Almost 50% of the studies that are being done on climate change stem from the US, and those studies are used for the IPCC report on climate change. South Africa's climate change is mostly based on the peak plateau trajectory, and the peak plateau trajectory is based on the IPCC reports which are generated from this. So if the US doesn't participate, then we don't benefit from capacity building, we don't build a climate resilient country. So far, South Africa has done a lot of work around the legal framework. We introduced the Carbon Tax Act. We're preparing the draft National Climate Change Response Paper to the Paris Agreement. So the Paris Agreement was very strict in terms of the countries having to hold their emission reductions. The U.S. leaving the Paris Agreement compromises the leadership on climate change. So China has to take the lead in the climate change fight.
All right, Madoda, very good to talk to you. Now, we just need Donald Trump to admit that Joe Biden has won so he can get down to doing his work and help save the planet. Very good to talk to you.